Thanks everyone for coming. I'm really here to ask for your help in finding ways that we can partner better together. So, I think the edX.org and OpenEdX really don't have that much connection. I asked the other day, how many people do you know, and this is at edX, do you know who have open edX sites? And they said, oh, well, there are a lot of them. And I said, well, do you know the people there? Well, no, yeah, I don't know. They're just out there. And so what I'm trying to do is figure out ways that collaboratively we could work together to increase access to high quality education, which I think is what everybody wants to do. And I was really struck by Anand's keynote, where he was saying that together between OpenEdX and edX, there are 22 million learners. And these are 22 million people across the globe who want to learn online. And it's pretty incredible that we have that many people, but maybe there are some ways that synergistically we could help each other. So edX is a nonprofit with high quality content and platform and open source. And a lot of people have come up to people at edX at this conference and said, can you help us? Can you give us advice? Can you work with us? And we have questions, and this conference is a great example of how many people are interested in open edX. But we don't get any money from open edX, right? So we put the platform out there, and we want to support it as much as possible, and we want the community to support it. But we need ways to be sustainable as a nonprofit, and we need everybody in the community to be sustainable. So how do we get that cycle going? So what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about some ideas I had, and then I really would like to use this session for ideas you have, to gather those ideas, and they can be crazy, they can whatever. I'm just trying to spark a discussion here about ways that we could collaborate together. So the idea, one idea I had for solely the edX.org perspective and helping edX.org be sustainable and collaborate. So I'm going to go through my ideas and then ask you for yours. So edX.org has lots of courses and programs in lots of different areas, right? So data science, cybersecurity, we have hard skills, soft skills, from a variety of universities and institutions. And these are well known. We have many more of them, but these are courses that you could potentially offer on your platforms, not being competitive, but something that your learners might be interested in. So the idea, you get a value add for your community. So not asking you to compete with what you're doing, but you could offer select courses, all courses to your community. It's new and different information, and for some of you it's in a different language, so it's even less competitive. So they're already online learning. Here's another resource for them in the community. We are going to create a partners page on edX.org where we would feature open edX partners who are part of this collaborative endeavor, and so that is going to help us. And we would also be willing to share some revenue back on people who buy verified certificates on edX. So basically, one of the ways edX makes money is by offering verified certificates, as many of you do. And so for linking to edX from your site, if people came and got a verified certificate, would consider potentially sharing some revenue from those verified certificates back to you, so that helps you as well. I've talked to some people. Maybe you could send an email telling them about the edX courses. We have an API that you could use to bring courses in. It can be a curated API, so you could select only the ones you want, or only the subject matter or the school. Would love a link in your website footer, linking. Homepage placement. The idea being it's not competitive, it's something different, but it helps support the overall initiative. And this is what we mocked up. This is, I don't know whether you've seen it, but we have a similar page for our universities on the edX site. So we would do the same thing for anyone who worked with us on this, and we would put your logo and then a link back to your site. So those were our ideas. Now, I'd love if people had comments on those or other ideas. I don't know, I see some people taking notes, some people nodding, some people looking a little confused. Any thoughts from anyone on these ideas or your own ideas? How many people? Yeah, in the back.
What about a paid certification on the OpenEdX platform?
You're asking what about a paid?
Certification on the OpenEdX platform. So, for example, let's say you wanted to become an OpenEdX partner, you would then be required to, and say that you're an official OpenEdX partner, pay for some sort of certification of those on the platform, like a technical certification.
That you're I'm not an official open source person, so what other people think about that idea? I think it's a good idea. Who would certify? edX would certify you?
Anybody who wanted to be a hosting provider, services provider, etc.
Any thoughts on that idea? So if you were offering services, you would get an official certificate from edX? Is that what you're suggesting?
So yeah, you could apply for, you could basically take a course and get some certificate.
Oh, are you saying take a course? Here, you can, if you want to say something, you can.
Just under the mic.
Oh.
So you're talking about like a service providers, like, I know, I'm sorry about the mic. Is this off? It sounds like you're
There you
talking
go.
about a sort of verified partner for doing service providers for OpenEdX. Is that right?
Yeah, it could be for providing hosting services, for providing implementation services, etc.
Yeah, so we're definitely looking into the idea of beefing up the service provider ecosystem around OpenEdX. Right now we have a lot of providers. We have a wiki page where they list themselves as saying we do services for OpenEdX. It's very informal. We don't limit who can put themselves there. There are 45 different firms that have themselves on that page. And we are thinking about ways of beefing that up, saying that these people are certified or verified or official resellers or whatever that might be. That's a very different connection between edX.org and the OpenEdX world than what Sasha is talking about, which is sort of sharing the learner world together, right? How can edX.org learners know more about OpenEdX, and how can OpenEdX learners know more about edX.org? So there's lots of different connections between the two worlds, and doing more with the service providers is definitely one of the things we're interested in.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, Ned. This is more a question for them than for you.
Okay.
It's more for the open source and because I didn't know exactly this conference how was about.
Yeah.
As you know, we are both on edX and OpenEdX, so we are already integrated and trying to put synergies on both. What we do is we have modified OpenEdX, so we have a type of course that is a link to edX. So we announce our URLs, and then when they click on it, they go to edX and things like that. But I think that what I was going to ask is for someone that I think that you already had during several months, someone in the OpenX group that is devoted to kind of technical community manager or something like that, devoted to following what we are doing in the open community, because for us now OpenEDX is open source, but it's not an open community. You have a couple or three contributors that they get their pull requests through it. You have a lot of others that we have decided not to make pull requests because it was too time consuming. And I think that, for example, now you have developed a new X block for video, and you haven't asked anyone or seen if, for example, we in this case, we have an open source video player that is being used in Harvard, in Zurich. And I don't say that you should be using that, but you could get ideas or something. I think that if you had someone especially devoted in the OpenEDX team, in the OpenEDX team to communicating with OpenEDX partners, at the end, perhaps it could be a cost for you, but in a couple of months or 3, you could be aligning everybody.
Yeah, this isn't quite what this session is about, but
well, I'll address this very briefly. So I don't want to take over Sasha's session, but so Ignacio was asking about easing the contribution process and making not only the source open, but making the community more open. And believe me, I feel bad every time someone feels like the community isn't as open as it could be, because we want contributions, but we do have an essential asymmetry in the community between the engineering velocity and capacity of the edX organization and the people who are trying to contribute, and that is something that we deal with constantly on the OpenEDX team. Like I mentioned before, we're looking into how to do more of a service provider, beefed up service provider. We're also thinking about ways that we can do more to educate people about OpenEDX, sort of a marketing function for OpenEDX, which really brings Sasha and me closer together. How to ease the contribution process is a huge topic that we really should talk about maybe at the Birds of a Feather. And George in the back of the room was running one yesterday. I don't know if you're running one today about easing the contribution process. But definitely we want to, I feel terrible that you feel bad about it. Okay, that's the main message I want you to hear. And I wish that you didn't feel bad about it, and I want to fix it. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, Sasha, I really think edX could help a lot. Okay, right there. Okay. I think edX, OpenEDX needs edX's help in pushing the platform, because in my recent communications, University of California has selected an alternate supplier. Why? I have a feeling that nobody from OpenEDX was there to push the platform. So all California universities have selected a different platform. University of Texas, the whole University of Texas systems has selected a different platform. And I think a lot of it is when you're going in and pushing edX, and they say, well, that's pretty expensive for the whole university system. I don't know if you're doing the plug for edX, OpenEDX.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that in all the discussions that we have, OpenEDX is a big discussion point in terms of one of the things we say is even if you go with edX, you can always go with OpenEDX as well. Some places do both. So it isn't like we're just saying go with edX. OpenEDX is part of the...
Right, but was someone there when the University of California was making a choice and saying we need to pick a vendor? Were we there? Because that's scary, because the country of California and the country of Texas are now basically off limits, and I'm just curious whose job that is to make sure that that platform war doesn't get lost.
Go ahead.
Which vendor do they choose? Am I here to promote some other vendor? It wasn't an open source solution.
Do you want to talk more about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're not going out across the world specifically or into states and promoting OpenEDX as a platform as a business, because it is not a business, right? It's open source, anyone can use it. When we talk to people, we talk about it, but we don't have a specific initiative to go out and promote it as a solution uniquely. Is that?
Yeah, but we need to win the platform war, and if we don't go visit and we don't make that call, we lose.
Right. So Randy just said that if we don't go and make the visit, we're going to lose the platform war if we don't have someone about Open edX and those kinds of meetings.
So I get your concern. My thought on what you're saying is that edX.org is owned by the entity known as edX. Open edX, the software platform, is really owned by all of us. So it seems like your premise is that it is necessarily the edX organization's responsibility.
It's somebody's responsibility. So the question
Yeah.
But it could be yours, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't do that.
Yeah.
We're not going to be able to walk in the state of California like either Open edX.
So yeah, maybe to come back. So maybe your suggestion on helping us all work together is to take a more proactive view on Open edX as a platform. True, maybe that is a good thing, but we come back to the sustainability issue, right? And how does that help edX be sustainable? How does it help overall learners?
If you lose the platform war, your sustainability dies.
I understand what you're saying. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good point, and edX as an organization has never devoted energy towards specifically marketing Open edX, right? It's a topic that comes up when we go and talk to people about edX.org, but you're absolutely right. That is something that we do not do, and I totally understand that when you're sitting with a CIO and they want to think about edX as a thing, they don't want to hear from a service provider about edX. They want to hear from edX, and we just don't do that. And we need to think about how we approach that in a way that is not just a cost to us, but all.
It's not the CIO.
Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah,
CIO
yeah.
might have a problem with it.
Okay.
It's a state.
Could-
No, I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. It's a big organization. They're used to dealing a certain way. They don't want to hear about open source. They want to hear about someone who's going to support them. I understand.
Sasha, so is it possible that we can separately license edX course, right? Not by entire course or program, but by individual knowledge point. You know, so let's say if you break your course, right, and into a very self-contained unit, you know, so that that unit is going to teach one concept. Yeah.
So break up
yeah.
courses into modules
Yes,
that you could
into
license.
module, and also package it so that we can separate, export it, right, as a module. And then the enterprise, the corporation can license that module and to put together with our own course, and then we can pay the license to edX.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's an interesting idea. I mean, obviously the universities would have to participate in that modularization, right? So,
It could work the other way as well.
what?
So we could build. So technically, also organization like ours can build different models and bring it back to that.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we can devote a full course for edX, right, as applied materials, but we can probably take some pieces and give it away.
Yeah. Interesting.
I think for the corporation, for the corporation, there's always no time to let employee to learn a course from beginning to end. So they also always do it in the other way. They first has a problem, right? Then they figure out which course can
Right.
answer that question, that problem, and then we put the course together in that way. So, you know, if you can license the course in some way, in that way, by the university,
No, that was
there will be
interesting.
interest there. Yeah. So.
I suppose the thing I wanted to say is that I firmly believe that the fact that there is this Open edX community providing a lot of different services using the platform, services that don't compete with edX in any way, but they add to the value proposition of edX. I really think it would be of benefit for edX when it's talking to university partners or potential university partners to push the fact that there are a suite of services beyond what edX offer using the same platform from a competitive environment of service providers. That's a real value add, whereas your competition may be competing directly with you, but they might also have other services that they're selling which compete against the open edX community. And if you separate yourself off and say, no, we only make money out of open edX, and don't push the ecosystem as well, then you're in a much less competitive place.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, we do promote open edX as part of the value of edX, that we are open source and that you can do kind of your own thing, as well as taking, when we're pitching edX, we're also pitching the open source and the open edX platform. But did you have any, I mean, I know you come from a different perspective, but do you have any ideas on how, there might be a way to, cross-pollinate the learners? That's really what I'm aiming for, more than service providers.
I'm very interested in the model that UUB have got, where they integrate on-campus open edX with their edX. I'm very interested in the way UPV have implemented an on-campus open edX that integrates with their edX.org courses to provide a kind of unified experience for students that are interacting with UPV and their MOOCs. And I'm sure that there will be other solutions that do that kind of expand what a university who's an edX.org partner can do in their learning products and offerings by integrating in things that the open edX community offer as well.
Thank you.
So what kinds of things are people doing to engage their learners, and what is the sort of stuff that's on edX.org that could be part of that, or vice versa? Any unusual marketing techniques to draw people in?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to push the discussion back to the technical side, but thinking about ways of bringing traffic and users and enrollments from the open edX platforms to edX.org, two ideas come to mind. One would be, not necessarily good ideas, just want to throw them out. One would be using edX.org as a third-party auth for open edX sites, so that it's also a way for users to have a credential on edX.org to log into their open edX site. And the other one would be to handle the enrollment in the edX courses that we consume from your course catalog service discovery thing. Process that enrollment in the open edX site, and then report the enrollment back to edX.org, probably in a way that you could probably have those people enrolled in a particular cohort. I'm aligning with what you said about the corporations. Probably there'll be a way for corporations to bring in people to the edX.org courses, but then give them some particular differentiated treatment based on a cohort, for instance, instead of having to modularize all the content.
Yeah. And do you think, is that something that you would think is a good idea for your organization, or are you just throwing it out as a...
I don't represent an organization that has a large number of users, but I definitely think it would be a good idea for both sides of the equation.
I could add a small thing in terms of what we're doing in Oslo and Norway, and that is looking at the MOOCs as a kind of textbook and partnering both internally and externally with traditional providers of textbooks like publishing houses as one thing. And I think it would be good not to talk so much about the platform, but of the artifact that students are encountering. So it's a different kind of perspective. So we are not competing with other platforms, but we are competing with traditional textbooks and the traditional modes of using textbooks. That's one thing. The other is we are experiencing the change to Office 365 now. And talking about learning organizations, what you can see from Office 365 is going to be a learning platform. And then Microsoft purchased LinkedIn and building LinkedIn Learning. So we look in the future, are we going to compete or collaborate with Microsoft on these things? So the university is not only it's not only the students that are learning, but it's the entire organization. And these kind of conceptual things are something we would look for support from the edX and the open edX community.
Could you explain just a little bit what you're doing on the textbook side? I just
Well,
wasn't quite clear on
first of all, we are redesigning the way we do teaching and learning. So textbooks would sort of fork into the online part, which is, you know, with videos and flashy stuff and interactivity, and then we go for deep, slow reading. So books should be very, no pictures, small font, big space for annotation, and heavy reading. So we sort of split the book into the online part and the paper part, and then redesigning how we, in blended mode, redesigning what we do together with students, which is out there in blended, in flipped classroom things. But to do that institution-wide. And so in that, what we encounter is the discussion with traditional LMS providers that are organizing classes very much in the traditional mode, while we come from the other side, from the library side, from the publishing side, and that's the competition at the moment. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thanks.
Competition are books, but competition are also search engines. When you want to learn something, you go on Google.
Right.
And also to address the point that my neighbor just mentioned before, in our group of universities, we indexed all the micro modules that we have developed, so that when students want to look at a specific topic, they can directly access the module or which is included in a bigger course where the topic is used.
So surfacing more of the individual items in a course.
Yeah, and this, I mean, with the license, this way you could use the same content and maybe you develop it with certain rights for the usage in your organization or on the platform for people who register for it, and then there would be another license for people who want to access it from the outside.
Hi, my name is Lisa. I'm from MIT. Just relating to that, I think something we've been thinking a lot about is making it easier for people to build the skill set that they need to be successful in a course. You know, for example, like we have an introductory calculus course. A lot of our more advanced courses need calculus to do them, but it's really hard. Actually, we've found it's very challenging just on the edX.org site for someone to figure out what prereqs they need and then actually get directed to that resource. So I wonder if that's something that could be thought about pathways to learning, because I think that could be really valuable for, there's a lot of that type of content on edX.org that could be a good resource for people on open edX courses to go back and forth to get foundational skills in one place and then go take, you know, whatever sort of more advanced specific thing that a lot of, you know, that edX.org partners like us are offering, but also a lot of open edX people are. So I know we're looking at that and trying to piece through some of our courses and figure that out, but how that would be implemented, you know, on the platform, I think we are hoping to talk about more in the future, but I think that could be an opening for some portability.
Well, I guess before, just a question. I brought up the idea of using edX courses on open edX sites. Is there an interest in that? If those of you who have sites, could you raise your hand if you're at all interested in that? Okay, so good. That's good. Well, is it, and in what capacity would you see doing that?
Are you going to answer that? No, the thing is that building on this you are telling, why don't use MOOC.org to build kind of a list of courses that can be on edX and open edX sites to make kind of a specialization or whatever, that you don't have all the courses on edX or things like that. So you have MOOC.org that you still are looking for what to do with it. So you could kind of make something intermediate where people can go and look for, and someone can curate and say, let's do, if you take this from FUN or from wherever open edX.
Right, which kind of puts both of your ideas together. That's really interesting. We've thought about that. We just, you know, do you think it's, raise your hands if you think that's a good idea. So the idea of using another site to pull that thing together, yeah? Did you have?
Sasha, just in our instance, you know, we have courses that are on Shui Tang. We have collaborated with a number of other edX partners, both institutional and organizational, on course development, and some of those partners have their own open edX instances. So we might have reasons to want to direct students to those catalogues, or to present those catalogues in some organized way where we have some control of how those catalogues are presented. So the sort of functionality you're talking about, I can see that, you know, there's going to be more and more uses as, you know, we're a large organization. There's lots of partners for all sorts of different things. We have, you know, groups at UQ doing training courses for international development, for governments around the world, things like that. And they're not only wanting courses, they're wanting platforms to run run those courses on. It makes sense to me that if we have a platform and service providers where we can say, well, we can develop using our expertise your courseware, and you have this selection of service providers that can set you up and host it and brand it for you, and then we can link it back to our course catalog and say, or they can link back to our course catalog, so their users do the courses that we provided, and then find the rest of our catalog, and then go on to edX and find a more diverse catalog. You know, it's just a connected learning environment that's you know, spans the globe and lots of different organizations.
Other,
As far as I understand, there's a certain barrier to entry to publish more courses on edX. Maybe there could be things like proposing sort of a contest and then admitting some courses from other contributors.
So that there would be a way to get on the edX platforms for select courses from select groups.
Yes.
Educator idol. Excuse me? Educator idol. Yeah. That's a good idea. How many here would be interested in that?
Oh.
Yeah.
We can't afford your
yeah.
So that idea would be linking to those courses from edX.org, or putting the course on edX.org, or it doesn't make a difference, or I keep getting distracted, so I missed some.
Yeah, no, I think the idea would be a contest to have it on edX.org. Is that what I think?
Very cool.
It could maybe bring diversity and quality or new ideas.
I mean, is there an advantage to linking for edX linking to open edX sites?
Last answers.
So the key advantage for edX linking to open edX sites is the fact that edX.org has a very specific set of X blocks and other features available. So if your courseware is taking advantage of X blocks that are not available on edX.org, then they would not work if they were uploaded to edX.org.
There will be some technical limitations if you're using exotic features. So I think We're out of time, unfortunately. There is an open Birds of a Feather session starting at 3 o'clock. Sasha will be down there in the snack area, of course, replenishing herself. So you can catch her then if you have some more ideas. Thank you all very much for coming.
Thank you. Okay, thanks.